So Inktober is over and I'm secretly hiding a mess. But let's forget about it for now because we have a sketchbook tour to do. The Inktober sketchbook tour. I don't know why I'm nervous showing this off. Just, it's been a long month, okay? It's been a really long month. We have the prompt list over here. I wanted to keep the pages clean on either side, but that didn't happen. And you'll see as I go through that I kind of gave up on that. So first we have day 1, Dream. This is my Mariposan queen. Her name's Yulia. Every time I've drawn Yulia in the past, it's always like she is in bed, but she is like frail and really ill. So the fact that I drew her just happily dreaming, it makes me happy. And I love the colour palette in this. It's so dreamy. Then we have spiders. I'm no fan of spiders myself, but I thought spiders would go very well with the theme of an abandoned castle. And this abandoned castle belongs to my vampire kingdom of Huxley. This scene is in the kingdom of Verona, the crystal kingdoms. You can see the little crystals dotting the path. But this composition was more of a zoomed out composition of the Crystal Beach print that is on my Etsy store and is on the back of my business card. You can kind of see the likeness when I put it side by side. So day 4 and 5 appear next to each other. This sketchbook is technically only 24 pages, so I worked out that on the back of every third page I would do number 4, 8, 12, etc, etc. Now this is a little bit of a spoiler. So this is Crown Prince Argus. He's getting married in this one, and because he is distracted, he can't dodge the avian assassins. And I thought that this was a really awesome composition. And the short video I did for Dodge was the first time me testing out a finger snap transition. Then we have the map of Mariana. So technically speaking, I don't even need to show you a map in this video as like an extra asset because I actually drew the map. I thought that this was a perfect prompt for day 5's map. We have Avis, Verona, Loca, Mariposa. There's Prism, Cinderash, Dune, Quillo, Akrell, and the reason why Akrell looks like this, so it's slightly different than other kingdoms around it, is because it's actually under the water. Hallie, Wire, Huxley, Farley, Navern, and then these two were a little bit too small to write the names on, so I just did little lines. This is Henlin, and then this is Artro. And of course I had to do a little bow. I thought that that was really, really cute. Day 6, Golden. This is one of my baker characters. His name is Harley, and he is cooking some lovely either cupcakes or cookies. It doesn't really matter what he's baking. Either way, we know that they're going to be delicious. Day 7, Drip. I really love this composition. I was really iffy about this composition. So this character, her name's Sonia, and she is actually the mother of another character of mine, Lucille. So she doesn't get a lot of love a lot of the time. So I thought it would be really nice to draw her. And also, my sister's name is Sonia as well. So this character was named after my little sister. So I think that there were points in this sketchbook where I felt like I overdid some of the colours, or like I did it wrong in some respects. And I think in day 7's background a little bit, as well as day 9. But first, let's talk about day 8, Toad. This is my character Ronan. At this point in the timeline, he would be the crowned prince of Akrell. And in this composition, he is looking up at his friend, who is kind of laughing at him. His friend Adrian is not laughing in a mean way. Adrian is laughing at the fact that there is just a toad on his head. Then we get on to day 9, Bounce. I was really unsure what to do for bounce, I've got to be honest. But then I thought of a baby, like a baby in a bouncer, and I thought that that would be a really cute idea. So this is little Orion, Lucille and Brandon's little boy. Actually, Orion is their third baby boy at this point. And in this piece, I do really like it. It's just that I feel like I overworked it. So then we have day 10, Fortune. This was one that you saw a lot of planning of in terms of the colour. So there's not really a particular character behind this one. I just really like the idea of a fortune teller, and I feel like a fortune teller would not be out of place somewhere in Mariana. So even though this piece does not have a particular thing in Mariana to draw comparisons with, it's definitely something to add in the future. If I had to say what is most like this in my character universe already, I would probably say Bethany and her powers of like being a genie would kind of open up the possibility of this sort of power as well. But nothing has really been set in stone yet, so I will just leave that open-ended. I'm just in love with the way the colours came out in this one. Day 11, Wonder. Now I do have a bit of a confession to make. This illustration in the middle of the girl with a lantern, I actually already had. I was planning to use it for something like a business card because I thought it was a really, really good design. It has the potential to show off dynamic lighting, show off the character, and it has so much potential. When day 11 came around with the prompt of Wonder, I couldn't really get it out of my mind that I wanted something similar than what I'd already had drawn. So I shrank down the sketch and just plonked it in the middle of the page and then just winged the rest of the design around it. But this also works mainly because I wanted to test how well it would work traditionally as well, because I was going to do this main sketch digitally. So the fact that I got the chance to do it traditionally as well, I jumped at the chance. Day 12 and day 13, so we have Spicy and we have Rise. I linked this to my character universe by the fact that this is one of my character's favourite meals. And this would be Yumi's favourite meal. Yumi is my Archro princess, and she marries into the Veronan royal family, and she'll become the future queen of Verona when the time comes. This was a very different concept for me and definitely worth experimenting with. I know I experimented with the opacity of the ink as well. Footage for this was in my previous video where I went over 2 weeks into Inktober, and it's of Sparrow and Pearl. Sparrow at this point being the Emperor of Abyss. And he and Pearl would set up an event where they would raise lanterns into the sky as a tribute to all of those that they had lost. Day 14, Castle. Now, this is actually based off a Sims screenshot that I had taken, but the caveat to this is the fact that I had built these castles. Both of these buildings I had built for my Loca Kingdom in my Sims save. So technically speaking, I did make all of it. I even built them in the Sims ahead of time. Being able to draw my Sims builds is just so surreal to me, and I really love the way that this came out. In this one, I definitely experimented with values, laying down the values ahead of time before going over the top with marker, and it worked really well. Okay, day 15, Dagger. I was just feeling some swirls in the background for this one, and then I was like, okay, let's do lines like I did for Dodge, but on this side. I know I've done this sort of concept before, but I thought it'd be really, really cool to use the dagger as like the split down the middle. It shows that Eliana is still the same person underneath. The difference is who she would use the dagger for and against. Then we have Angel and Demon. I was not planning for them to be side by side like this. Like, honestly, I was counting out the pages, and at the time, I did not even know the prompts. I was just like, okay, 16 and 17 are next to each other. And when I found out the prompts, I was like, oh my god, it's fate. It's amazing. I love this. So we have angel and demon. So this is later on in the timeline, and these two characters kind of exist around the same sort of time. This character, her name is Mira. She is an old character on this channel, and she has been revamped and added to the character universe. She does appear later than the current point that we are at in the timeline right now, but she is an avian. And what is interesting about this is when I've drawn avians and mariposans in the past, I've always drawn avians as the devil and mariposans as more angelic, but this completely flips the script. So on the left for Angel, we have Mira. I'm not going to tell you too much about her story because that is a spoiler, but I really love the medieval style clothing. This is very related to her story and everything, so the fact that she's wearing that is really, really nice. And I definitely played around with the opacity of my white ink here. I really wanted it to look cloudy and ethereal and bright, just so pretty and airy. Whereas Demon, I was going for a darker tone. So you can kind of see that I've used opposite colour palettes. We have purples and blues, and then over here we have yellows and oranges. Not necessarily reds, but definitely oranges and yellows. This character, her name is Holly Bell. She's actually named after a character that currently exists who is named Holly Blue. So this character is referred to as Belle, whereas the one currently that exists is known as Holly. So we have Mira and Belle. Day 18, we have Saddle, and this is Safiya and Silas. So Silas belongs to Celestial Royals, and Safiya is actually the ancestor of my Veronan Royals. Celestial Royals, or M, is playing out a Victorian fantasy gas lamp sim story, and I immediately wanted to be a part of it. I am so invested in Celestial Royals' story. It is unreal. I have added so much angst and tragedy to that story, unintentionally, but also intentionally because I'm obsessed with it. And in the most recent episode that Em has got on her YouTube channel, she actually has Silas and Safiya go out horse riding. So I thought, perfect. It gives me the excuse to draw it. And of course I'm going to take that drawing idea and absolutely run with it because I love Saflas. Saflas is their ship name. They are so adorable. I cannot handle their cuteness. Day 19 is Plump. Loki is pregnant with her second child in this one. And the reason why she wouldn't be pregnant with her first child in this one is because in the story, her first child, she did not know she was pregnant at all. Her body didn't really change too much. So when her second pregnancy comes along and her body does change, it's more of a magical experience for her. And she doesn't take that for granted this time. Day 20 and 21. So we have Frost, my Ice Queen Never. Then we have Chains. So this is Callan's ship, the Red Runaway. The same ship that appeared in Day 5's map. We have a side view of the ship right here. Is it completely accurate? No, it's not. But I was doing it because I like the composition. I feel like if I could change it right now, I would probably move the anchor a little bit to the right so it's not touching the very edge of the illustration, but either way, I still really like it. Day 22, Scratchy. So this character, I call him my disaster child. His name is Warwick, and he's named after Warwick Castle here in the Midlands. But I call him my disaster child because, as you can see, he's very clumsy and gets a lot of scrapes and scratches. Even though he looks like he's in a lot of pain, he takes every scrape and scratch on the chin. He's just like, yeah, I'm broken again. Fix me, please. Day 23, Celestial. This composition was originally for Rise, day 13, but I thought that this would work well for Celestial. She's using her celestial powers to raise the moon and clear the sky of the storm. And if any of you watching remember my old Inktober's, you might recognise the connections to old Inktober pieces in this, which was completely intentional. And if you would like to go on a scavenger hunt for any of the connecting pieces throughout the years that I've done with Inktober, because they're all within the same universe, it's just that they're done over multiple years. I will leave a link to it up in the iCard in the right hand corner. Then we have day 24 and day 25, so Shallow and Dangerous. So this is Pearl again. There's some characters that appear multiple times through, and this is Pearl. She appeared with Sparrow in day 13, but this is earlier in the timeline where she is just enjoying a shallow bit of water. Pearl in the future definitely becomes more accustomed to being on land. However, she never really loses her love of the water. Day 25, Dangerous. This is Robert. And Robert was previously not a vampire, but in current state of affairs, yes, he is. He gets bitten by one of the old vampires of Huxley, and he becomes a vampire. And Robert is Lucille's dad and Sonia's ex. My favourite thing about this one is definitely the contrast. It's so deep and vivid. Day 26, Remove. Even though day 25 and 26 look as if they're connected, they're not. I just used the same colour palette in terms of like the reds that I used. But this was a very simple composition. It was just some feathers drenched in blood. And this is because these are Sparrow's feathers. As a punishment, Hawk actually removes some of his feathers, so it will make it difficult for Sparrow to fly around. I feel so sorry for Sparrow in this one. Oh, this one makes me sad. Like, even though it's only like simple feathers just floating to the ground, drenched in blood, it still makes me sad. You can see here my swatching just came out in force. Okay, day 27, we have Beast. And this is Kai, Loki and Elijah's son. So he was the child that Loki did not know she was having. And Kai is technically a werewolf because Elijah is a werewolf. So between the ages of 8 and 10, Kai starts experiencing becoming a werewolf. Now, his dad is actually a werewolf. Loki and Elijah initially thought that their children would not gain the powers of a werewolf because Elijah was bitten. He wasn't born as a werewolf. So the fact that Kai turned out to be a werewolf wasn't initially thought about, but Kai does end up becoming a werewolf. And through Kai's teen years, there's definitely some self-loathing there, especially to do with his powers. He doesn't particularly like them, but he knows it's not really his dad's fault. They were just really unlucky, but he does think of himself as a beast. Day 28 and 29. Sparkle and Massive. So Sparkle, I did more for Never's Kingdom of Quillow. And you can see in Frost that this is Never, and this is part of her kingdom, just the Ice Kingdom. And of course, the Ice Kingdom would sparkle underneath the moonlight. Then we have a more zoomed out version of Callan's ship, the Red Runaway. I will say, throughout these pieces, like, even though they're meant to be the same ship each time, I will say I have drawn the Red Runaway incredibly inconsistently over the years, and I will probably continue to draw the Red Runaway inconsistently. But I thought a massive ship would be a really, really nice one for day 29. Day 30, Rush. This was done with Ohuhu markers, so this definitely has a different sort of look to it. Even though I've done some work with Ohuhu markers throughout this book, I feel like this is definitely a very different look. But we have Eliana and Spiro, and they're having a duel. They love the competitive rush of having a duel. And the background depicts some of Cinderash's castle with the volcanic rock and lava. So day 31, Fire. And this one is of the Avis Fire. I'm not going to spoil too much about this. There is going to be a fire in the future. That spoiler is just undeniable at this point. But I'm not going to explain how the fire happens, who gets caught up in it. I'm not going to explain that because that is a major spoiler. But this character is Sparrow. And he's watching as his previous home, and also not just home but prison as well, is burnt down. This image is actually a way more detailed version of what happens at the end of my panic room animation for Sparrow, and if you would like to check that out, I will leave a link to it in the top right hand corner, as well as down below in the description. But yeah, that is Inktober. It's crazy that it's over. In one way, I wanted Inktober to last longer, but in another way, I'm like, I'm glad it's over. And I don't think I'm as burnt out as I previously was. And I think I've got some new favourites in here. There's definitely some that came out a lot better than others. I'm loving page 4 and 5. Just, yes please. Prompt 9, Bounce, definitely overdid that one. Day 11, I love the experimentation with turning a digital sketch into a traditional piece. The happy coincidence of Angel and Demon being together. Just Safflass. Anything Safflass. I love. But I'd love to know down below in the comments, what is your favourite day from my Inktober? And if you like this video, you can give it a like. And subscribe if you're new with post notifications on for every time I post a video, live stream or short. But yeah, with that being said, I really hope you enjoyed this sketchbook tour and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys!